Damp rocks and fish boxes. The Whisky Tasting Game.
Take it we're going to count up from 50.
We need to mute ourselves.
Good point. 57,
8,
58,
9.
59, 60.
Should we do 20 down to 30?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. 21,
22, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
0.
Well, that was alright, wasn't it?
We're getting good at that.
Boop.
Boop. Why do you go boop?
Because it gives a bigger wave than me tapping the microphone, so I like it.
Ah, you're checking your mic's working.
Yeah.
I see. Very good. I thought you were doing like a sort of weird version of the Radio 4 pips.
No.
Boop. 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 Boop.
Boop.
Right, one of my cats wants to join the podcast now.
Well, come on, that's what I say.
Hello and welcome to Damp Rocks and Fish Boxes, the Whisky Tasting Game, the podcast where we taste whiskey and do our level best to describe it poetically, accurately and intriguingly with varying results. I'm your host, Joe Lindley, and with me are our whiskey nosers, Ralph Connolly.
Hello.
And Nathy Connolly.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Joe. Good to be here.
Oh, it's good to be here as well, Nathy. Always good to be in a Zoom call with you guys. Have you got some whiskey trivia for me this week?
We have, yeah. Well, I have anyway, yeah.
I have.
It's Nathy's turn to go first, so hit me with it, Nathy.
Okay, so last week I said that Taiwan, as a little tidbit for you on top of my actual facts, I said Taiwan was the third highest consumer of single malt whiskey, USA being the first. What's the third? What's the second? Sorry.
France.
All right, well done. You got that. You got that straight away. Yep, France. 176 million bottles of Scotch were exported to France in 2020, which I think is quite surprising somehow.
Yeah, that is. It's fascinating, isn't it?
They love it though, don't they?
If you didn't already know it.
Does the French just love drinking anything, or is it they have a particular...
It's the old alliance, Joe. The old alliance. They love the Scottish.
Yeah, they do. I think they do love a bit of Scotch generally. I mean, I'm going off, basing a lot of it off chatting to a French guy in Charles, like the guy in the duty free in Charles de Gaulle Airport, and our brother's father-in-law also drinks whiskey.
Yeah, he quite likes any of it. Irish, anything.
But yeah, it's sort of slightly. I would have them down as being more kind of brandy drinkers, if anything, you know, just purely because they like French stuff.
Or cognac.
Exactly.
There's two guys on YouTube I saw just in Tokyo. It was about a 40-minute. I actually watched the whole lot, and it was just pretty interesting watching them kind of live up to what you imagine two French people drinking whiskey in Tokyo would be like. Back on the stereotypes. Check it out.
Thanks, Ralph. Okay, well, lovely fact there, Nathy. Good effort extending last week's knowledge. What have you got for me, Ralph?
Well, this is a bit of, just returning back to my trusty companion, the Malt Whisky Yearbook, this is a bit of fag packet calculations, but apparently in 2019, a combination of blended and single malt was quite a lot. Anyway, I worked it out. If that was 70-cent litre bottle, which it probably won't be because a lot of litre bottles get sold, it would equate to about 91.7 billion litres of whiskey was exported out of Scotland in 2019, which is a lot. I mean, if you want to understand how much that is, that's roughly a third of Windermere. I don't know if that helps you understand it.
Billion? That sounds like complete bullshit.
What are you saying? It's not enough?
That sounds like too much.
It sounds like it's far too much. Like, it's like about 10 times the economy of Scotland. Like,
this is litres, not pounds.
Yeah, I know, but like it's like if it's an average of like 20 quid a bottle of whiskey.
But it isn't, is it? Because we have to pay a hell of a lot of tax on it, but other people don't.
I know, but go on. So how many was it?
91.7 billion litres.
That is an insane amount. I want to fact check on that.
Well, it's a lot of whiskey, isn't it? That's what I'm saying. I'm standing by it. And the only other form of liquid I could equate it to was looking up how much water was in Windermere.
Bullshit.
I quite like the comparison to Windermere Ralph, but I think that should have rang alarm bells.
I mean, 91 billion would be like... it'd be like 10 bottles of whiskey for every person in the world. That'd be a lot of fucking whiskey.
That's a good way of putting it. And that would be 3/4 of Windermere.
Well, it's a good job. I mean, yeah, it was, as I say, it was hastily put together, that one, and didn't quite come off, obviously, so...
Well, it's a foregone conclusion that Nathy wins this one, because that's bullshit, Ralph.
Well, what was it? The combined volume, yeah, it was 1.3 billion bottles. Okay, yeah, that's your answer. That's less than a litre. I should have worked that out there and then. That's not right, is it? But yeah, 91 billion, or whatever.
It's 91 of something.
There you go. That's another fact. 1.3 billion bottles were sold.
It's a nice way to ease into the podcast. That's what it is. So, very nice work. I think your poetry and your statistical research skills are on par. So, without further ado, I think we should just crack on with tonight's tasting. So, you should have a bottle labelled DRFB7, Damp Rocks and Fish Boxes 7, and feel free to pour yourself a dram of that. I'll just quickly recap the rules in case anyone isn't familiar with them. So, there's 5 points for 3 core categories, and that's how intriguingly, poetically and accurately you manage to describe this whiskey's flavour and taste and smell profile. There's 1 point each for getting the whiskey region, its age, its distillery and ABV strength, and if you get all of those right, there's a bonus of 1, so you can get 5 for that as well. And there's also the Damp Rocks and Fish Boxes bonus. If you manage to get that phrase into your descriptions in a legitimate way, then you might get a bonus point for that too. Whoever has the most points at the end of the series wins a £150 bottle of whiskey. I think, by the way, Nathy's just crept ahead in the last episode, so it's still very close, everything to play for, but Nathy currently in the lead. Any questions, or do you want to crack on?
How much in the lead?
2.5 points.
I think you're 1.5 in the lead, because you clawed back 2.5 last time and you were 1 behind.
Ah, okay. Fair enough. Can I just have a point straight off the bat? There's definitely no Damp Rocks or Fish Boxes in this.
This looks very similar to last week's. It's caramelly, golden caramel in the glass. That's all I'm going to say about it.
I'm getting fresh green apple
Oh, you smell? I'm just looking at it. Right, okay, I'll give it a sniff.
with a hint of hay. Maybe hay. Or is it heather? I don't know. One of those plant smells.
Personally, I'm going with the hay. It's got that sort of dry crustiness that you get with hay.
Acorns.
That's, I mean, there's an earth to it. It's not like an Isla vegetal rotting mulch. It's really nice and light.
I'm going to say sort of oaky, acorny on the nose.
I think on the back of last week's Johnny Walker Red, I'm ruling nothing out in terms of, even if something presents itself as quite boring, I think...
Could be quite exciting underneath it.
Apart from the Glenfiddich, obviously.
Your apples is good. I'm also getting a touch of pear and a bit of saltiness there as well.
Well, that's interesting. There is a tang. Is it saline though? Remains to be seen.
There's no peat anyway. No peat. All right, I'm ready to go.
Not a whisper.
In the mouth, as they say. Ooh, that's lovely.
Ooh, wow.
It's much more interesting in the mouth than it was on the nose. I think mainly because I don't know why actually. Anyway, toffee apple all day long.
Yeah, it's following through with the apple, and as you say, caramel, maybe. I'm just looking. I was interested to see if that salty vibe you were talking about was following through on the taste, but I'm not getting it. I don't think I even picked it up on the nose particularly. Anyway, is there any grass or hay there?
No, you're getting heather.
I don't know what heather smells or tastes like, frankly.
I'm loving the recurring theme of can anyone describe what heather smells like?
Well, I'd just like to get Nathy to pin down what the fuck he was on about 4 episodes ago talking about heather when I don't think he knows what he's on about.
I'm getting a bit of heather.
Any gauze bush?
Yeah, I did get some gauze. To be honest, I only started saying heather because I'm sure Joe mentioned it on a couple of different when he was reading out the tasting notes for a couple of them. It wasn't even on my mind before that.
I think the official notes on Highland Park involved heather, and since then it's been a common theme.
All right, maybe I'll stop going on about heather then.
I quite like it, and I think heather's got a kind of... It's a combination of the mossy earthiness, but it's got a kind of floral note to it. Anyway, that's a rabbit hole we don't need to go down.
We could go down like the burnt, like sort of a grouse more freshly burned.
Is this you poetry?
I nearly launched in there, but I'm going to hold off for a minute. This is delicious, but I'm struggling to come up with adjectives for it.
Does it take you back to your grouse beating days?
No, but around where I live, there are grouse moors aplenty, and it reminds me of when I'm striding over them in the morning, and the gamekeeper's out with his dog burning the heather on his quad bike.
It's elusive as an offshore wind farm in the morning murk, but it's certainly a lot more pleasant on the not on the eye because it's whiskey, but as an experience, it's very easy going. This, I have to say, but not as offensively boring as Glenfiddich. It's more friendly than that in a way.
I really like it. It's boring, but in a good way.
Yeah, I
think
do.
It's
floral. I'm getting floral.
Ooh, good shout.
Honeysuckle.
See, heather mixed with a caramel.
Is it? I don't know. I'm buggered if I know what this is. Well,
It's got a slightly, again, a bakery sort of a...
sweet treats, panorasm.
Yeah, like a croissant. Possibly even a pecan slice.
Butteriness.
So that's that sort of nutty and buttery, isn't it? Pecan slice.
I'm getting like, what I assume is a similar vibe. There's the haze, the earthy element, which you might be coming across as nuts, but it's not. Yeah, I'm just getting quite sweet.
Custard as well.
Custard. Ooh.
It's got quite a nice sort of boozy feel to it, more so than, say, the Johnny Walker from last week. It's got a sort of boozy sharpness to it. I think it's aged.
Oh wow! I've just got apple crumble.
Oh yeah.
Who's apple crumble? Who's made it? What kind of apples?
Well, my brother another brother of ours has a friend called Phil who makes apple crumbles apparently. So I'm going to say his. I've never had one, but that's the first. He's the only person I know of any note who makes apple crumble.
It goes perfectly with my custard, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It sounds like it's definitely a pudding whiskey from what I'm getting from you guys.
Yeah, it's kind of baking with mother.
I mean, do you have any nice experiences of that? Is it similar to when she left you at playgroup?
Yeah. I more mean kind of in the baking with mother, just general baking with mother sense to it rather than me baking with my own mother when I was a child.
Noted.
Sorry, I'm just cogitating here and see if anything percolates. There was something I got a minute ago. It was really interesting, but I'm just going to try and rediscover. Bear with us.
I'm getting a touch of cedarwood, I'm getting a touch of cedarwood on the nose, but also earlier I said oak and acorn on the nose, and now it's kind of developed into cedarwood. And it just puts me in mind of when I was young, sat under the cedarwood tree with my book.
Yeah, this is definitely back on my wind farm. It's definitely elusive. It's like a David Pryor picture. Have you ever seen a David Pryor picture? He's a Scottish photographer. It's full of light and brightness. It's very airy and it dances across all the senses, the nose, the taste, the palate. But yeah, I'm all out. I'm spent after that. That 9 seconds of mediocrity. Bloody hell. What is that?
There's a bird doing some kind of alarm call outside the boat.
Are you still on the boat this week? You've been away for a week.
Ralph. It's 20 minutes later, Ralph.
I mean, if we're being totally honest, I've absolutely no idea what this is.
I'm ready to go. I'm not confident.
That's fine, Nathy. It's fine to not know what it is. You got to be in it to win it.
Right.
Well, I'm going to give you a few generals.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago you did say Scotland.
I've got down Old Pulteney, 12-year-old 40% Highland. I don't think it is that.
I've already said this one. I'm going to go again. I'm going to go Glenlivet 12 again. 40% Speyside.
Oh,
Well,
put us out of our misery.
if I was to say to you, it's another blend,
Fucking hell.
after last week's shock horror of introducing Johnny Walker Red to you, which blend do you think it might be?
I'd be tempted by Johnny Walker Green. To be honest, I've really got piss poor knowledge of the other kind of supermarket. But you know, like if it was a Chivas Regal or something, I wouldn't know because I don't.
It's not that. That's very distinctive. A blend. Fuck me, what could it be? I've had teachers. It's not that, and you don't get that often anyway.
I don't feel like it's nice enough to be a Johnny Walker Green.
Or robust enough. I think that's quite. Even it's.
Yeah, it's a bit more smoky, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I've got an idea. I think it's White and Mackay. Purely on the strength, it's quite friendly like Jura, and I know that Jura is owned by White and Mackay. That is all I've got to say.
All right, Ralph's gone White and Mackay. Nathy, you sticking with your Glenlivet, or are you going to plumb for something else?
Not got Scooby Doo. What blend it would be? I'm gonna have to stick just 'cause I can't think of anything better.
Very well. I will bring up the bottle in front of the camera so you can see. Here he is.
Oh my word, Bells.
Fucking hell.
It's Bell's. Allegedly the most popular whiskey in the UK.
Fascinating. That is brilliant.
Well, is that a third of Windermere they sell of that a year? Or?
It's just about half of Coniston, I think.
Do you know, I've never, ever in my, not knowingly, had any bells, and it is...
It's pretty nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
Like, I've always been very prejudiced against Bells, but, you know, we tried the Johnny Walker, which I was pleasantly surprised by, and this is another one. It's like, it's pretty good. Apparently the heart of this malt is Blair Athol. Is that a distillery somewhere? I think it's a Speyside.
Yeah, I've been to Blair Athol.
But it's also got Glenkinchie in it. It's also got Cal Isla from Isla in it.
No shit.
That's what it says on the internet, so no reason to disbelieve it. I can't get the smokiness, but Cal Isla's fairly gentle with the smoke, so maybe it's just a tiny bit there.
It is, but there's still a bit of a sort of medicinal vibe to it. But I think they also do unpeated of that, but it's not very much, so it can't be in a blend.
Well, again, it sort of fascinates me how the blenders do it, you know, combining these things together. Anyway, the official notes I've got for nose, we've got soft, gentle, malted barley, hints of cut herbs and a fresh floral note. Palate, we've got smooth, medium-bodied barley, cereals, nut oils, hint of wood and spice, and then the finish is all about fruitcake and smoke. I don't know why they're saying the smoke, because I don't really get it, but there we are. So, what you guys said, well, I don't think you're a million miles away, to be honest. With the green apple and hints of hay, that kind of goes with the fresh, freshly cut herbs they're talking about. I think that does make sense. You said floral, and they said floral, and the sweetness is definitely there. You mentioned caramel, and Nathy, you mentioned you were all about the wood, which is also one of the prominent things they mention here, and the nut oil. You said pecan slice with the bakery as well. So
I also said acorns.
You did say acorns. You do, yeah, and cedarwood, oak, acorns. So I'm going to give Nathy 5, Ralph 4. I think.
Oh yeah.
You actually, maybe I should deduct a point for that saltiness. Do you stand by saltiness?
No, I was just a throwaway kind of.
Well, if you'd have defended yourself, I would have left you on 5, but you didn't, so you can be reduced to 4.
Well, that's what made me go for
bugger.
old Pulteney, because I think there's meant to be a bit of a salty vibe to that, even though there's no salt in it. And I bought into it. I bought into the suggestion and went with it, and fucking nailed my pants to the mask and got burned.
I mean, maybe there is a bit of saltiness in this Bell's.
There was a bit of a tang on the nose, but
there is actually.
So
all right, you should have stood by that, Nathy.
I'll go back to. I would have done, but I wasn't sure which way you wanted me to jump. I thought if I just said, "Oh, don't worry about the salt," you're going to leave me on 5, but then you didn't.
Well, now what I've done is I reduced you down to 4 for backing down. Now I've tasted it again, decided it is salty, and I've put you back up to 5.
Brilliant.
Yeah, but I think you're buying into the suggestive powers as well. I don't think it is salty. I think both of us have
I'm
been
not going
had.
to change a third time, so. What I've noted down for intrigue for you, Ralph, was not as offensive as Glenfiddich.
Well, Glenfiddich isn't offensive. It's just inoffensively offensive, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and this is not as inoffensively offensive.
Well, it was very bright and light and airy. I'm quite surprised.
Well, I'll give you 3 points for that. I think it's quite funny and it's quite intriguing. And I know your mother, and so you're baking with mother. It sounds intriguing. I'll give you give you a couple of points for that as well, Nathy. Poetry. This is all about an attempt at a cedarwood tree story and the gamekeeper on his quad bike versus the elusive wind farm in the murk. Tough battle, that. There was also the David Pryor.
Yeah, that's true. David Pryor was good, actually. It was
I'm going to try and encourage you to develop your poetic style. So I'm going to give Ralph 4 for his David Pryor and the wind farm. And still not bad, Nathy. I mean, 2. You.
Yeah, I struggled, I think, this week. I've launched into it a couple of times and sort of ran out after about a sentence, but
Yeah.
you know, stepping stones.
Then on the actual specifics, so you both get a point for 40%.
Apart from that, fuck all.
Well, Ralph took the bait and decided it was a blend. Went with Martin Mackay. I guess I'll give him another point for that. He can have 2.
I don't know though. Like I said, I would go with a blend if I could think of one. Which I mean, I could have thought Bell's.
You need to drink more blended whiskey. I mean, I've never drunk White Mackay either or Bell's. I don't know.
It's funny enough. I mean, I don't know if you remember, Ralph. You did say it's not Bell's, is it?
Well, I did. Yeah. I did. You're right. Now you come to mention it.
I'm kind of tempted to give Nathy 1 because the Speyside thing. It's got a heavily Speyside vibe about it, but
What did you say? Blair Athol?
yeah.
Yeah, I've been. It's near Perthshire, is it? I've been to Blair Athol. I had a great night in Blair Athol.
That's Highland, I think. Can I have a point for Highland then?
No, you can't.
13 Ralph, 11 Nathy.
Fuck, bollocks.
So does that put me back on half a point ahead?
I think yes, that's just edged you into the lead overall. Yeah,
It's nail-biting stuff, this, isn't
it
it?
is.
It's like a Top Gear episode or something, isn't it?
So let's mark Bell's. I think we put Johnny Walker Red Label on 3 out of 5. Where do we think Bell's is?
I think it's comfortably a 3.
Yeah, I'd say so. I was pleasantly surprised. So yeah, 3.
Yeah, I'd almost be honest go up 3+. I thought it was good. It's interesting. I think it's probably partly because I didn't know it was a Bell's, and I was quite surprised
Well, yeah, that's
when
it.
it turned out to be Bell's. I think what I found most interesting about it is it's the fact I was quite confident it was. If it was a single malt, it was like a 12-year-old. It wasn't like the Johnny Walker. I was just like, I don't know. It just didn't. There's something about it that didn't taste interesting enough for it to be aged, whereas this sort of did. Hence, I'm offering it up as a 3+.
Do you know there was an occasion when I was out celebrating something and an old friend of mine said, "Do you want a drink?" I said, "Get me a whiskey," and I assumed he had bought me a single malt or something, but he was like, "No, it's Bell's," and I was adamant. I was like, "No, this is definitely a malt. It's definitely an aged malt," but no.
Well, you can see why.
So Nathy thinks this is better. This might be when we have to call upon the plus and minus side of things. He thinks it's better than the Johnny Walker, so 3+.
Well, I've still got some Johnny Walker from last week as it happens. I might just pour myself a little. Is that permitted?
Yeah, I could probably compare and contrast actually, because
Okay.
It's not as robust as a Johnny Walker, by which I mean as sort of maybe aggressive, and I don't mean in an alcohol way. I just mean sort of in terms of the darker, funkier.
I think the Johnny Walker's got an overall sweeter finish, and the Bell's has got it's more alcohol driven.
yeah, I'd agree with that. I think that's the thing though. I think in my age, I kind of quite like the alcohol kick I'm getting from the Bell's, which I think when I was younger I would have disliked.
It really does taste stronger. It'd be interesting to check. Maybe it is just stronger.
Yeah, now I've drunk the Bell's. A Johnny Walker tastes like a sort of a liqueur or something, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, that's Maybe it's like Glenfiddich, the Bells. It's a good enhancer.
That said, the Johnny Walker is sort of nicer as well.
I think the Johnny Walker's definitely got more evident smoke. Like that little bit of smoke at the back.
It's hard to know what you... This is the interesting thing, isn't it, though? It's hard to know what you're after, because I think until relatively recently, the last couple of years, generally smoothness was sort of highly prized in my whiskey tasting, whereas recently I quite like something that's a bit sort of rough around the edges. I think it's a bit more interesting, which is obviously the Bell's has got that roughness.
It does.
But it also doesn't. It's really light.
They're very different, actually, aren't they? Yeah, to be honest, having had them both, I think they're both just a 3. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I'd go with that. I don't want to put one ahead of the other. They're both surprisingly nice.
There used to be... Who did they used to sponsor? Did they used to sponsor the Scottish Premier League or something?
I don't
I
know.
remember in my sticker book
Perhaps.
days.
Well, anyway, can I mark this down as a 3?
Well.
Are we happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Have you two got an extra 10 minutes in you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Well, I have.
I would like you to get out DRFB 8.
What the hell?
This is outside of the game. This is just a bit of sport tasting again.
Is this another... we on Blends Week?
Blends Week. In the glass, this looks like an old man's piss. An old alcoholic man's piss.
He's gone and said it. He's gone and said it this week.
I mean, yeah, it's the same colour as this week and last week.
I think this is even more caramelly than Bell's and Johnny Walker.
Yeah, it's a lot darker than Bell's, isn't it?
And if we're riffing on a theme, I'd say, yeah, it's definitely a blend. But why would you suddenly throw a single malt into the mix unless it was Glenkinchie
This is old.
or Blair Anthony?
Mrs. Marple over there.
I don't want us to do a whole tasting on this, but taste a bit of this. I want to know if you think this is better or worse than Bell's and Johnny Walker.
So nose. I'm not getting much nose on it.
Wow, what is that? This is like a panna cotta. Do you know what I mean? That? What's that Italian cake you get at Christmas?
Tiramisu. Or like a panzanella.
That's a tomato and stale bread salad, isn't it?
That's a salad. Yeah, that's a salad, isn't it? What are they called?
Is it a panna cotta?
Panettone.
Panettone. It's like cake and raisins on the taste list. Not a lot on the nose.
I think that could be because it's whiskey number 3 that I'm not getting much on the nose.
Well, the only way to test that is to go back to the other ones, but let's concentrate on this for the time being.
I've got work tomorrow. I think I'm done with the other ones.
So, panna cotta, not a lot on the nose, or panettone rather.
There is a bit of panna cotta in there as well, actually, I would hasten to add.
What is panna cotta? I forgot.
So what, you're getting a bit of cream off it?
I'm getting, creme brulee, maybe foie gras. Foie gras?
I don't eat foie gras because the thought of it makes me feel a bit unwell, but is it sort of like irony, minerally, or what?
Rich and fatty, I think.
Orangey.
Rich and fatty. I think this, I'm getting quite a lot of richness off this whiskey. It seems, it's very sweet.
It's
Yeah, it feels more viscous, but I'm open to being
hibiscus.
wrong. Is it? No, viscous in the mouthfeel, sort of quite thick. Bit
Not as
thicker.
oily as the Johnny Walker, I wouldn't say.
Chew it, but if it is a blend, it could be Chivas.
Yeah, interesting. Have you got space in your glass for the other one, DRFB 9?
I'd have to rinse one of my other glasses out, but I can do that.
Yeah, fucking hell. I've got a lot going on here.
Right, I've now got a spit glass. It's not a spit glass. It's just it's not a spit glass. It's a rinsing glass. I'm just rinsing one of my glasses out.
What I will say is, I've gone back to the Johnny Walker, and there's definitely a hint of Talisker there now.
Oh, right. So you think that the Bell's and this mystery one brings out the Talisker in Johnny Walker?
Yeah, because that's meant to be on the smoky side
Yeah.
of things, isn't it?
This could be a golden formula we're making for people, as if you want to taste Talisker for the price of Johnny Walker, first you have to do this and then this.
Drink some Bells and then whatever this one is.
What I would say is the Talisker is guaranteed to be belting. And this isn't bad.
Would this make a 3 as well, do you reckon? Or is this...
It's hard to know because we haven't had the whole blether. You know, that if you haven't spent 10 minutes thinking about it, it's hard to... It's got some bubbles in it when you give it a shake. That's probably just liquid, isn't it?
It's old man's piss, Nathy. Bubbles in it if you shake it. So...
yeah, I think on a quick fire tasting, I'd say that's possibly better. It's definitely better than... certainly better than the Bells. It's probably better than the Johnny Walker.
It's really interesting, isn't it? I can't quite say. It is nice. It's like kind of...
it's like a banana.
Yeah, like some sort of... You're sort of on the money with... I think almost like tiramisu. Like it's got a sort of coffee chocolate sort of and cream feel to it.
Do you not think it's got a kind of... feels a bit very savoury to me. It's
Damp
like,
rocks.
Oh, that would have been a good opportunity for damp rocks, but yeah.
No, I would have said like kippers. And...
No, I'm on the dessert end of things here with this. What's the savoury element, Joe? What are you talking like?
Well, it's like... I think sort of like malted wheat, so a little bit shreddy-ish, but then sort of dusty shreddies.
I know what you mean with that, but all cereal has got so much bloody sugar in it. Even the savoury ones, that it's still got...
Well, that's what I mean, but it's sort of, you know, that kind of cereal. It's not like Ricicles or Frosties, which are just all-out sugar with underneath it there's some corn. It's like one that's trying to come across as a bit healthy, but there's definitely a shitload of sugar in to make it not taste like crap.
I like it. I can't quite place it.
Well, this is fast. This is intriguing. Definitely intriguing.
Are you wanting to just have a quick bash on 9 as well?
Yeah, if you can bash into DRFB 9, and I'm just kind of curious what you'd rank both, like what you'd rank first out of
8. I'm saying I think I'd be giving it a 3 again. I think I'd give it a 3. Right, okay, so 9. Not much on the nose yet. Again, I'm going to cleanse my palate a little more. You can tell us what 8 and 9 are, by the way, or...
It'd be really bloody mean of me to not tell you, wouldn't it? Thanks for that, guys.
Yeah, I'm a C with it. They're both sort of... I can't tell whether it's like psychologically I'm just going, right, Joe's just shipped us a load of blends here. Because they do all just taste sort of similar.
Alcohol-y.
I don't know, though. It depends, because if it's so weird, the psychology of it, isn't it? If I'm drinking different whiskies out of my own...
Whoa, what the fuck is this, Joe? This is mad.
Which one's that you got, Ralph? Is that 9?
This is 9. What is that? That was really striking, but now it's gone. I think the first... It's as elusive as that wind farm again.
I tell you, it's got a rough as arses kind of feel to it, 9.
Yeah, it had a real tang vibe on the first nose.
It's interesting, isn't it? I think it's what you would... A little bit like, like a sort of 50%er. It's got a little bit of that roughness, but I don't think it is. I think it's just a cheap 40%er.
Grain whiskied.
Which I like a bit of grain, but...
Here's a little factoid. Even single grain whiskey has to have malted barley in it because that gets the enzymes going, apparently. They have to... Well, they don't have to put it, but it's useful, so they do.
What is grain whiskey?
Could be corn, rye... oats.
Oh, right. So I didn't know that. I thought it was...
could be anything.
I thought it was wheat,
Yeah, no, wheat as well. Wheat, yeah, it could be wheat. Any of those. I think wheat and maybe corn. I think your bourbons and stuff, they're like 51% corn. They have to be.
So why is this so-called grain whiskey, which can be made out of anything, why is it cheaper than whiskey?
Well, it's more because it's made in a column still, I think, and they can just belt it out in massive volumes.
Depends, like, as you know, the Nika coffee grain, I think, is absolutely delicious.
Right, of the 4.
Oh, fuck me, we still...
What are we on? 8 and 9 are more viscous, which leads me to think there might be single malts.
More viscous? How are you
But they're
judging the
probably not.
viscosity?
The mouthfeel. This one, I don't feel particularly pissed, but I'm sort of a bit lost in amongst all these 4 whiskies I've got.
Yeah, so 8 is the pudding one. I've got rid of the bells because I've had to reuse the glass for whatever the hell this number 9 is. Which I don't know. I think it's one of those where I'm going to make a fool of myself by like going. This is. I just feel like these are particularly 9. I think has got cheap and cheerful blend. Like, it's nice enough, but it's got a cheap and cheerful blend feel to it to me.
Just like the others then.
Basically, yeah, the whole menagerie of them.
So there's not one standout one for you, Nathy?
I don't know. This is what
I would say of the 4, 9 is maybe different. If not, it's 8.
Well done, because we know what the first two are. I think 8 is... 8 is weird. 8 is really puddingy. Yeah, 9 is probably nicer. I can't... Hang on, right. Let me have another go.
It's sort of sweet, but it's not as sweet. There's bits of all of them that I like.
8 is...
But I'm completely...
Maybe we should mix them all together and see what that's like.
8, I think, is really nice. It's kind of like, it's basically like nice in a kind of pudding whiskey way. 9, I'm not sure.
Okay, so fine. Thank you for bearing with me through this. Precious few notes. I think on the one that we're calling number 8, we have panettone, more viscous and banana from Ralph. Nathy was more about not a lot on the nose, but maybe a bit of cream, foie gras, rich and fatty. Probably give it a 3. The only thing I bothered to note down for what you said about number 9, Nathy, was rough as arses. And Ralph had this amazing nose for a second, and then that dissipated.
It's gone. Can't get it back, unfortunately.
Dissipated into nothing. And again, he thought it was more...
It's as elusive as that wind farm.
Yeah, elusivity is high on the list of things you're getting this week, Ralph. So would you give both of these a 3 as well, or...?
I think I would. I'm really struggling, to be honest, because the whole lot of them... I know you're going to tell me like one of them's like a £100 bottle of whiskey or something in a minute, but...
I think they're all presenting the same characteristics, but they are different.
They're different, but they're all similar in certain ways, so I'm really struggling to kind of pick them apart.
Okay.
Put us out of our misery, Joe. What the fuck are they?
Well, I think you should give yourselves a pat on the back for kind of not being a million miles wide of the mark. So, where have I put DRFB8? DRFB8, not the rough as arses one, but the foie gras, is Tesco Special Reserve.
There we go, dark aged.
It's aged for a minimum of 3 years, and I thought this one was rough as fuck and hated it.
Interesting.
But maybe that was my
I
prejudice.
think you asked us a few leading questions, but I could be wrong. Anyway, go on. What's number 9?
Number 9, White and Mackay.
So you didn't... That's you threw me with that, though, Joe, because you said... Is your one of them isn't like different? I was going, I need to be picking out this diamond in the rough here.
That's what I mean.
Well, yeah, it was interesting. I knew what they were, obviously, but for me, the Tesco one really stands out as being quite a lot more disgusting than the others.
I thought the Tesco one was the most inoffensive, almost, because it was just so... It's quite smooth, I thought.
This is hopefully useful for our audience to see what happens when you taste these things blind. But I think I'd be keen to check up on you next time, and when you're sober, you've not had another whiskey, try that Tesco one and see what you think of it, because I am quite dubious as to the quality of that one. The others, honestly, the White and Mackay, the Bells, and the Johnny Walker, I think they're all pretty good. They're all much of a muchness in terms of price. They're fairly similar, but have slightly different characters. The Tesco one, for me, tastes rough, but maybe that's my prejudice.
I think I'm just quite accustomed to drinking cheap alcohol. I don't know. Well, maybe it's not that, but they don't seem as unpleasant, whatever it is, even if it's something that's pretty cheap and shit. Well, that's my view.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the more you get used to it, the less you give a shit.
Well, it's not so much that. I think if you can get beyond the sort of alcohol.
Yeah, exactly.
There's actually quite a lot going on that's not that unpleasant.
But I think also the alcohol burn, once you get used to it, is also quite a nice element of it. Sounds sort of weird to say that, given like the journey you go on, in that when you start out, you're like, that is like going to make me throw up, and then you go, well, that's good. I like the way that kind of elicits a bit of reaction in me. But yeah, it's interesting. I think what would be interesting, I was going to say, is do you remember that time when we did the wine taste testing and Lauren sneakily had us all taste the same wine twice? And it blew my mind because we were like going, the analysis and the differentials we were giving these these wines that were the same fucking wine were mind-blowing. So that would be an interesting thing to do.
That is not a bad tip for next week.
Yes. Well, keep the podcast cheap. Just redo the same ones.
So what are you going to hit us with? 2 at a time, 3 at a time next week.
Yeah. What do you think of White and Mackay this week?
I'd like to go back and revisit White and Mackay like first without having 2 or 3 other ones before. To be honest, it's quite hard to get a handle on.
Yeah. So I mean, I wanted to get those in just so that we could have a blend episode.
Blend week.
Yeah. Blend week.
Well, it's
So, Blake,
confounded me.
let's cut to the chase. I mean, we scored Johnny Walker Red 3. We scored Bell's 3. Are you going to give Tesco Special Reserve 3 and White Mackay 3 as well, or?
I don't know.
I don't know, Joe. It's not as bad as you're making out, but it could be I'm just quite accustomed to it.
Yeah, I thought they were both fine, but I think because they were whiskies 3 and 4 of the evening, it's hard to really
I mean, are there any internet tasting notes for
judge.
I
the
didn't.
Tesco?
I didn't look them up. I didn't look up the Tesco one, but I think. All right,
I wonder if my Panettone's on the money, but probably not.
we could perhaps be the first organisation to have an official tasting brief for the Tesco Special Reserve. Right, I will mark those as a 3 asterisk.
That's not that bad.
And the asterisk being, we had a couple of other whiskies first, but
Yeah, I thought they were both fine anyway. The Tesco's one was a bit puddingy.
so a bit puddingy. That I mean, they probably put that on the website.
It's very
I think.
puddingy, yeah. You saying savoury though, Joe. I'm not getting any savoury.
Yeah, I mean, it tastes like sort of fermented vomit and car tyres to me. I really don't like it.
It probably does like off the dry, having nothing before it. But
Perhaps I should have said it tastes a bit unsavoury rather than savoury. Maybe that would have been more poetic.
I've really had my pants pulled down by Blend Week. I don't know what to think anymore.
Well, I'm sorry about that, Ralph. I mean, unless you enjoy having your pants pulled down, in which case, great.
No, I don't know where I am with. Basically, what I'm getting at is I've quite enjoyed all of these.
I thought it was about what I'd expect from it in a way, in that they were surprisingly better than you would expect. But they weren't sort of breaking any boundaries really. You weren't going, right, I'm giving that a 4, a high. I wasn't like, at no point was I going to give any of them, apart from the bells, anything higher than a 3.
Bells tempted you into it. I'm going to wrap this one up. So we think these cheap blended whiskies, they're all right, which is kind of a nice surprise. They all taste pretty good. Even the Tesco Special Reserve, which is very, very cheap. So if you're drinking whiskey on a budget, give that a go. Then we'll finish with our caveats, which is alcoholism and the mental health issues associated with it. They're really real issues, and we understand that. We're drinking for fun here, but we're trying to keep a lid on how problematic it might be for ourselves. If it's a problem for you for any reason, then we recommend looking up Alcoholics Anonymous or your local drug and alcohol services, and if you have no other option, then feel free to speak to us about it. Second caveat is we don't really know what we're on about when it comes to whiskey or how to make a podcast, but we hope you're enjoying listening to it. That's all from me for now, so goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
If you're enjoying Damp Rocks and Fish Boxes, then please do subscribe and share the podcast with your friends and family. There's links to subscribe via Spotify, Apple Podcast, and the rest on our website, which is available at damp.rocks. You'll also find links to follow us on Twitter and Instagram there, so please give us a follow. Thanks for the support, and until next time, take care and Sláinte.